Aitäh. Hi, my name is Nils, and yes, I have more experience than some people have lived. This was this was a scary insight. But yeah, so I'm here to talk about the whole union of branding and storytelling. But I warn you, my storytelling skills are now under a stress test because, to my surprise, I don't have my notes, presenter notes here. So let's see how it goes. But as much as I would like to believe that all of you are familiar with Bond, so super shortly first, I'll still introduce ourselves. So we are a global branding and experience design agency. We have studios in Helsinki, London, San Francisco, Dubai, and of course Tallinn as a logical continuation to this list. But the thing is that we work as one agency across the studio borders. So we in Tallinn, we are equally much doing, projects or cooperating with our Helsinki studio and Dubai and so on, and the other way around. So I'm going to tell you, in the spirit of the theme, 3 short stories on branding and storytelling. Some of these stories have to do with Estonia, some don't have anything to do with Estonia, but the key here is that indeed, already by definition, brand and stories are connected, because I think this is the best definition of a brand that I have ever encountered. A brand is the set of expectations, memories, stories, and relationships that, taken together, account for a consumer's decision to choose one product or service over another. Meaning that a brand really doesn't exist without a story or stories. And here, story, of course, doesn't only mean, let's say, brand narrative, but visual identity and verbal identity, these are equally much story.
So, we got a lot of people not saying anything that sells cigarettes.
Not exactly. This is the greatest advertising opportunity since the invention of cereal. We have 6 identical companies making 6 identical products. We can say anything we want. How do you make your cigarettes? I don't know.
Shame on you. We breed insect repellent tobacco seeds, plant them in the North Carolina sunshine, grow it, cut it, cure it, toast it.
There you go. There you go.
But everybody else's tobacco is toasted.
No, everybody else's tobacco is poisonous. Lucky Strikes is toasted.
Well, gentlemen, I don't think I have to tell you what you just witnessed here.
And the rest is, of course, history. But the point being that if we are completely frank, well, most of the products and services in the market, they are in fact like completely identical. And then what makes the difference? What is the differentiating thing? It is the story. And maybe the point here being that you could almost say that any story is better than no story. As the example here, well, this is a true story, but as it was suggested there, that everyone is saying the same thing, everyone has the same story, and then, yeah, well, when you say something else, it immediately differentiates you from the others. And even if I want to think that the story needs to be, the brand needs to be authentic, still it can be authentic. It can be authentic, but yeah, the main thing is that you simply have a story. One local example of this is is Hansapost. We recently did the like a brand platform development for Hansapost, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, e-commerce operator in Estonia, and they were saying that, oh, but we don't have a story. There's nothing interesting about Hansapost, and on top of that, they were fully aware that they are not very relevant anymore nowadays for the younger audiences, and as kind of the name even shows a problem, it was very much considered as a postal sales company, which is the reason why they were even like pondering if they should change the brand name, because there's this post there and everyone thinks it's just postal sales, which is not what they do. What we did was a little bit of magic, and instead of highlighting the post, we emphasized the word ost, that is the Estonian word for purchase, that is equally much within the brand name as the word post, and stating that Hansapost alati lihtsam ost, which means Hansapost, ever easier shopping, or in the name of ever easier shopping, and this was also something that wasn't really like artificial, because we managed to point to them that, well, everything about their story, that they thought that it is a boring or non-existing story, there is already this ease of things or simplicity integrally there. So even the etymology of the brand name Hansapost, well, the story was very simple, that the founders were sitting in a sauna, one guy representing the Finnish postal office and one guy representing Hansapost, Estonian printing house, and they tried to come up with a brand name for this new venture. And surprise, surprise, the solution was, well, let's take the first part from the other guy's company and the second part from the other guy's company, Hansapost. Well, even the beginning was about simplicity and ease of things. And ultimately, the founder of Hansapost was almost like a bit teary-eyed when we were presenting the brand narrative, because he suddenly realized that, oh shit, my company has a cool story. And this was the same guy who was in the beginning saying that, oh, but we don't have a story, we have nothing interesting to tell. So everyone actually has a story, and it's just our task to find the story. But then let's move away from Estonia in a land not that far away. So this story has to do with Finland. This is one little anecdote that I tend to tell always to clients when they want us to tell more and more and more and more stories. Oh, but this thing is very important, and this thing is very important, and this thing is very important. So once there was a creative who was presenting, let's say it was a packaging concept to a client, and the client liked the work but was a bit like, how, but we should also communicate this and this thingy, that these are also very important things, and then I would like you to mention this, and how can we get this piece of information in also. And the creative, they were in a meeting room and there was a bowl of sugar cubes on the table, and the creative took a handful of sugar cubes and threw them at the client, saying that catch. And of course the sugar cubes like fell all around the meeting room, and before the client had the chance to get mad or upset, the guy sent just one sugar cube and said catch, and of course the client was able to catch that one sugar cube. And end of demonstration and end of discussion, the client never ever asked the creative to stick more and more and more stuff to the package. The point being that yeah, people can only like catch so many sugar cubes at once. You can't tell a million stories simultaneously. But this doesn't mean that things need to be boring or repetitive or that the story can't be rich. So recently we did a rebranding for Cable Factory, which is the biggest cultural center in Finland. I think there's 1 million visitors per year and over 300 tenants, and it includes museums and art exhibitions, art galleries, martial arts, circus, dance, and whatnot. So the story that needs to be told, it's almost like by definition like a complicated story. But we realize that the whole place is about all these different things coming together, that it's a place that ties the world together, different cultures and all these different activities. And of course, since the name of the place is Cable Factory, it found a super nice visual form. But equally much, it was all about, or the place is all about these surprising, unexpected encounters that that there's like so much happening that it's the place where human being and all things new meet. And hence we created this platform of dynamic slogans with limitless combinations, and we are this way communicating or making it understandable how much there is on offer, but still telling a very, very simple story that is easy to understand. And of course, as we are designers, everything is then supported. The story comes also alive through the visual execution. And finally, I'm going to show you something beautiful, but I'll also show the kind of what's happening behind the scenes. Also, true story. Otherwise, you wouldn't hear the story. But we did a rebranding for Kalevala jewelry. I don't know if you're familiar with this Finnish jewelry brand, but it's a bit of a legacy brand that is also, surprise, surprise, not that relevant, or it hasn't been that relevant nowadays. But it's a brand, or like their products are something that traditionally, it's something that moms buy to their daughters, and it's kind of something that connects generations, but not that relevant anymore for younger people. But enough of words, and let's check a little case reel, because I just think it's beautiful. of course like a lot of beautiful things going on there, but one piece of the foundation was actually on the verbal identity side. Now it starts to seem that this is some sort of a signature trick of ours, even if it's not, but in the brand name, Kalevala, Vala is the Finnish word for oath. So this was something that was playing a major role in the verbal identity, so that practically all the messaging was somehow connected to this concept of oath. But how this came about, what is the story behind that? These are actual screenshots from our project Slack channel. So already in the pitch phase in our Helsinki studio, Martin, who's a Dane and obviously knows nothing about Finnish language, he had created this initial like a strategic platform that carried working title Unbreakable Bonds between generations. And then, well, I was reading this in Slack and then suddenly like connected some dots and pointed out that, oh, there is this word Vala inside the brand name, hiding in plain sight. And Martin was, of course, sweet Jesus. This is pure gold, if the client hasn't heard this ever before. And then came the pitch presentation. We weren't presenting anything visual, we were just presenting the concept and the verbal side of things. And they had never heard this, which is like quite kind of funny. It's a, I don't know, 60-year-old brand or something like that, and you can imagine how many advertising guys have been there presenting this and that. But no, it was something new to them and something that made so much sense. It wasn't like an artificial trick. It was once again, it was part of their actual story. And yeah, this was one of the things that stayed as they were writing the pitch process, like what came out in the end of the process, the project. It was actually exactly what was presented right in the beginning. But yeah, I need to wrap this up, and of course, because this is all about telling stories now, the question is that well, what is the moral of these stories? What I'm trying to tell you? Well, the thing is that the world is a very complex place, and I don't know, maybe 2021, the world has felt especially complicated and complex. But we believe that a great brand is the opposite of complicated. Quite often there are clients who are saying that, oh, but our business, or oh, this, our brand architecture is so complicated, and oh, this is very difficult, it's so complicated. Well, of course it's complicated if, kind of the brand owners think that this is super complicated. Then of course it's very complicated for the target audience or the consumer. So a great brand is the opposite, and therefore, to wrap this up, we believe in Bond. We believe in a simple truth that in a complex world, simplicity, simple is what wins. And I believe that if this is the one thing that you take away from this presentation, you are good to go and ready to live happily ever after when it comes to branding and storytelling. That's that.